There are moments in motherhood that seem so small on the outside. A toddler whining, a juice box squirting stickiness everywhere when they go to take the first sip, finding a toy in the toilet, someone touching you for the 15th time, another snack request right before dinner is plated. An absolutely nonsensical dialogue with a tyrannical three-nager. Or just another interruption before you can finish a single thought. And suddenly you feel like you can completely unravel. And strangely, you know it's not about the juice, it's not about the whining, it's not about going fishing in a toilet. But in those moments, your body reacts like it's one thing too many. And lately, I've been sitting with that a lot. It's been a rough week. We had the stomach bug going on, everyone's moods were all over the place. I'm PMSing, no one's sleeping well, someone always needs something. And at one point, I genuinely felt so overwhelmed to the point of tears over something incredibly minor. And afterward, I had that familiar thought. Why does this feel so hard? Not because I don't love my kids, not because I'm incapable, but because motherhood can make tiny moments feel enormous. And I don't think we talk honestly enough about why this happens. I think one of the hardest parts about motherhood is that so much of the overwhelm is invisible. Because from the outside, it can look like, why are you so upset? It's just a mess. They're just being kids. But what people don't see is the accumulation, the constant interruptions, the mental tabs that never close, the hyper-awareness of everyone's needs, the noise, the touching, the decision-making, the emotional regulation. Them and you. The fact that your nervous system is absorbing stimulation all day long with hardly no recovery. And eventually, things stop being tiny because your body isn't reacting to that one moment. It's reacting to the total load. And honestly, that realization has been very validating for me, especially this week. Because I think that a lot of mothers feel secretly ashamed of how overwhelmed they become, especially with these ordinary things. Especially now when there's so much pressure to be endlessly patient, regulated, grateful, present, gentle, or stern, healing, and intentional, while also functioning on chronic depletion. And sometimes I think we pathologize mothers for having a very human nervous system. One thing that I keep realizing is that our nervous systems don't actually measure whether something is objectively small. They measure capacity, and capacity changes. If you are already depleted, a tiny stressor can feel enormous. If you're overstimulated, one more sound can feel unbearable. If you've been needed by other people all day, one more demand can feel physically painful. And I think this is especially true in motherhood because there's no true off switch. Even when you're resting, a part of you is still listening, still monitoring and assessing and anticipating needs, still always carrying the emotional weight of the household. There's this low-grade vigilance that becomes so normal, we barely even notice it. And then we judge ourselves when our bodies finally say, I can't hold one more thing right now. Honestly, I don't think mothers are weak. I think many mothers are functioning far beyond what humans were designed to sustain without support. And because our culture normalizes overload, women often internalize the struggle as a personal failure instead of recognizing the conditions they're living in. And one of the most painful parts is the shame that comes afterward. The moment after you snap, or raise your voice, or feel irrationally angry over something small. Because usually underneath it is grief, exhaustion, overstimulation, loneliness, hormones, lack of space, lack of care, lack of quality rest, on the verge of burnout, if not already there. But instead of responding to ourselves with understanding, a lot of us, myself included, immediately go, what's wrong with me? What is wrong with me? And I think mothers especially carry this impossible expectation that if we're healed enough, regulated enough, grateful enough, we should be or could be calm all the time. But I don't think that being a good mother means never becoming overwhelmed. I think that part of being human is that sometimes our nervous systems reach capacity. And honestly, I think that there's something very damaging about pretending otherwise, because then mothers suffer silently. Everyone is trying to become less reactive, less emotional, less affected, instead of asking, why are mothers carrying so much with so little recovery? That question feels much more honest to me lately. And I think there's another layer underneath all this too, of course. One I'm only beginning to understand. I think modern motherhood has become incredibly logistical. Schedules, meals, behavior, appointments, cleaning, optimization, information. But humans and the divine feminine need more than logistics. We need beauty, stillness, meaning, connection, rhythm, rest, spaciousness. And I think part of why tiny moments feel so overwhelming is because many mothers are living with almost no room to emotionally and spiritually recover. We're constantly absorbing input, constantly needed, constantly performing functionally. And sometimes I wonder if what mothers are experiencing isn't just stress, but starvation of the soul. Not in a dramatic way, just this quiet deprivation of silence, wonder, community, slowness, care, presence. And I don't say that because I have the answer, but I do know that when life becomes nothing but survival and management, even tiny disruptions can feel enormous. So if you've been having these moments lately where small things feel way bigger than they should, I just want to say maybe your nervous system is telling the truth about your load. Maybe you're not failing. Maybe you're overloaded. And maybe you were never meant to carry this much stimulation, responsibility, noise, and emotional labor without support. And maybe healing isn't becoming perfectly calm all the time. Maybe part of healing is understanding ourselves with more honesty and compassion. Anyway, these are just some thoughts that I've been sitting with lately. And if this resonated with you, I would genuinely love to hear your experience because I have a feeling a lot more mothers are feeling this way than we realize. Thanks for being here. This has been another echo in the eye of the storm within. See you next time.